Hello everyone, welcome to the market outlook for the week. Gaurang Shah here from Geojit Financial Services, and as we begin this new week, this Monday morning at around about 10:45, markets holding out in the green trajectory. Before I go any further, let me give you certain levels. Sensex is up about 230 odd points, 79,265 is the level on Sensex. Nifty is up about 80 odd points, 24,090 is the level on Nifty Spot. Bank Nifty up about 85 odd points, 52,430 is the level on Bank Nifty or Nifty Bank. Rupee dollar and crude oil. Rupee weak against dollar, 83.46 rupees to a dollar with a weakness of 0.07 paise. And uptick on the Brent and NYMEX on fallback of the news flows from the Middle East. Brent is trading at about $85.32 to a barrel, and NYMEX is trading at about $81.85 to a barrel. Possibility of an elevated level, at least in the near term, as far as the crude oil prices are concerned. And on the rupee dollar equation, I think the range that we had given last time, 83.50, 83.60, that's the weakness against the rupee, and in form of strength against the dollar for the rupee, one can expect levels of 83.25, 83.30. This depending upon, of course, the news flows and, of course, the inclusion of Indian bond in the overseas market. So one can expect dollar flows coming in as and when you see activity at ground level. On the market trends, if you recollect last week, last week and the week before, that means from fortnight, we were giving out a view. On the Nifty levels, we had given out level of 23,300 on the lower side and 23,400. These are the two lower levels, and 23,700 and 24,000 on the higher side. The higher side levels have been attained quite smartly last week itself, with contribution coming in from big boys like HDFC Bank, L&T and Reliance, hoping that momentum to continue and seeing much more elevated levels. But we will need to pause for a bit. I think this week, in form of news flows, there is not much that can impact the market. So it is going to be a more of a consolidation kind of period for the market, barring stock specific moves, of course, depending upon the news flows. And by and large, the range that we have possibly kept in place for this week for Nifty Spot is 23,700 and 23,800 on the lower side, and 24,200 and 24,500 on the higher side. Possibility of a little bit of bias towards the higher level once we go through this brief consolidation period. Q1 earnings, friends, will unfold decisively from 9th of July. That is when TCS will do a curtain raiser for the first quarter earnings this new financial year, FY25, and then we'll see the rest of the pack follow. That is primarily the reason. In case if the IT sector has to deliver a little bit better, then I think that will support the momentum on the higher side for the market, Sensex and Nifty both. And being a weightage contributing sector, I think IT, in case if the numbers are better, then there is a possibility that we might get support from IT index, along with, of course, other large boys, which have actually been which have actually played a very crucial role as far as the momentum on the upside is concerned. Rollovers, friends, from June to July last week was on expected lines, indicating that there is more positive bias on the street as far as the month of July is concerned. But again, month of July, there are two important events, friends. Of course, one that I mentioned, curtain raiser for the first quarter earnings from 9th of July, and possibility of budget being announced tentatively. There is no confirmation on 22nd of July. Of course, one will have to wait for the official confirmation from the government and the Ministry of Finance. But this is the date that people are talking about on the street, with the caveat that there is no confirmation. This is a approximate date of 22nd July for the budget. So build up expectation from the budget, what the Honorable Finance Minister will do on the budget day, where the focus is going to be, employment generation, support to SME, MSME, employment generation, focus on infrastructure, focus on defense, focus on power generation, etc., agri, etc. So that's going to be a long list of expectation. But finally, I think what we need to see is what the Honorable Finance Minister has to say and deliver to us on the budget day. And then, of course, we will read the fine print, read the words in between the line, dissect the budget and understand it as to which way it is going to be very, very supportive. But all in all, I think it's going to be a budget which will be focusing on growth, which will be focusing on employment, and will be focusing on infrastructure and power. So that's the broad expectation that one can lay down in terms of what to expect from the budget. India VIX trend is something which is at an elevated level of somewhere close to about 14 this morning as I speak to you, and expectation of it to settle down lower, that will bring down the volatility in the market given the range bound move that we have put in front of you in terms of the lower end and higher range. FI activity, friends, have been on the positive side for the month of June. Remember, before election and the outcome of election, there was a huge short build up. But barring the fact that on 4th of June, when the election results were announced, we had made a low of below 21,900. That was the low on the 4th of June. And then from there till those levels, we have made an all-time high of beyond 24,000. So it's been a smart recovery. And this is one of the reasons why we also believe that given this smart recovery and lack of news flows, the market could go into a little bit of concern. It's also very healthy for the markets, friends. After a stellar rally, markets do need to catch a breath. So not surprising that if we see a brief period of consolidation, largely in the range that we mentioned of 23,700, 23,800 on the lower side, 24,200 and 24,000 on the higher side. In terms of policy decisions, of course, one will wait from the government and the ongoing parliamentary session as to what the government does in the parliament and what implementation has to come through. And in terms of earnings season, of course, pre-earnings views from different sectors and corporates will possibly help us build up some kind of consensus. But overall, I think this week is going to be a brief period of consolidation. Don't expect much from the Sensex and Nifty, but stock specific moves is definitely going to be there depending upon the news flows that will come through. Investment ideas, friend. Every time we interact with you all, we give you two investment ideas from a long-term point of view. Today, we have two of them. One is from the infrastructure space and the other is from the metal pack. Infrastructure space, mid to small cap company called PNC Infratech. And the reason why we have highlighted infrastructure is also with a view that there is going to be a broad layout for infrastructure spend from in the budget by the Honorable Finance Minister. And companies related to the infrastructure space, strong balance sheet with low debt and execution capabilities is likely to do well. Keeping all this perspective in mind, we have identified PNC Infratech as an investment idea. Targets, if you ask us from a fundamental point of view, whatever we've seen up till now, 525 could be the target. But with the caveat that these are approximate targets, and if the earnings have to be in line or better than expectation for the coming quarters and the financial years, then these targets would get revised accordingly depending upon which way the earnings is going to go. So the first investment idea is for PNC Infratech. The second one is from the metal pack, as I mentioned. Hindalco is the company. There has been a lot of excitement on this particular counter, especially its subsidiary Novelis listing, etc. And then, of course, a little bit of pause over there. In terms of metal prices, both copper and aluminium, there has been an elevated level, but in a range-bound mode in this recent times. Expectation is that if infrastructure activity has to build up, if real estate sector has to do well, if capex is going to be put in place, and if government is going to be spending at center level and of course at state level, state governments are going to spend, then metals should see a positive tick. Hindalco is the name, and the targets over here could be somewhere close to about 800. Again, over here, let me give you a disclosure that these are approximate estimated targets. If depending upon the earnings that we've seen so far, and if the future earnings are better, then the targets would get revised accordingly depending upon which way the numbers go. But we believe that these are two interesting themes, keeping in mind budget, keeping in mind the growth story, keeping in mind the turnaround in the real estate sector that we witnessed, infrastructure creation, spending by the government, central government, state government, and of course, private capex coming through. So this could be these two companies could be a long-term investment idea. I would like to highlight one thing that we always say: don't put all your money at one time, but use a staggered approach. Start at current level, and as and when the market gives you opportunity at lower level, you can definitely think of adding to these stocks from a long-term perspective. Mind you, these are not short-term, medium-term BTST, STBT ideas. These are long-term. And by long-term, the definition is at least 12 to 16 to 18 months plus. Thank you very much for your patience, journey, and I'll again see you next week. Till then, please do take care of yourself. Bye-bye.